The first person to kill Mario in a Nintendo game isn't Bowser or a Koopa Trooper, but it's you. Playing as Donkey Kong, you defeat the bad guy Mario. And when you do, well, he dies. This is fact number 1, and there is plenty of fascinating information for you.
Wait, hold on.
Angel Knot.
Salutations to the nations. What's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy, Young Sinai. So today we are going to be reacting to a video by Almost Something. This is 50 Nintendo facts you didn't know. So let's see if we knew them or not. Let me know in the comments ones that you didn't know. Also, let me know ones that you already knew. And also let me know, are you a Nintendo fanboy? Okay. We got a lot of Sega fanboys on this channel. I want to pair up the Nintendo fanboys and the Sega fanboys and have them go at it. You know what I mean? In a little friendly debate. So let me know in the comments if you think that Nintendo is destroying Sega, okay? Because I got some Sega people ready to take you Nintendo guys' heads clean off. All right, let's go ahead and get to it.
Well, he dies.
Hold on, let me run it back.
The first person to kill Mario in a Nintendo game isn't Bowser or a Koopa Trooper, but it's you. Playing as Donkey Kong, you defeat the bad guy Mario. And when you do, well, he dies. This is fact number 1, and there is plenty of fascinating information for you.
Wait, hold on. Hold up. Let me hear that again.
About Donkey Kong, you defeat the bad guy Mario. And when you, but it's you. Playing as Donkey Kong, you defeat the bad guy Mario. Koopa Trooper. The first person to kill Mario in a Nintendo game isn't Bowser or a Koopa Trooper, but it's you. Playing as Donkey Kong, you defeat the bad guy Mario. And when you do, well, he dies. This is fact number 1, and there is plenty of fascinating information for you about the old Nintendo Entertainment System and their amazing games. Let's get started.
Yo, he already got me intrigued because that just confused the heck out of me.
Talk about the Nintendo system for a bit. As a kid, it probably seemed like there were a lot of Nintendo games released. And there were. Know how many? 1,395 officially licensed games. However, not all of those games were available in all regions. There were 1,061 available in Japan, 678 in North America, and 359 in the PAL region, which is a lot of Europe and Australia. As many of you probably know, the original Nintendo Entertainment System wasn't called the NES at all. It was the Famicom, which was short for Family Computer. Interestingly enough, the Famicom's original games were Donkey Kong.
Which you think sound doper? Super Nintendo Entertainment System or Famicom? I used to think SNES because that's what I grew up on, but I think Famicom low-key sounds like way harder.
Junior and Popeye, which differed from the Nintendo system.
Also, I gotta say something. This Spider-Man shirt is hard, ain't it? I'm wearing this mug backwards because the front is super plain. And y'all gotta see this, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, crisscross, totally crossed out in this mug.
If you include Famicom games, the first Nintendo games were commercially sold in 1983. The last commercially licensed NES game? That would be The Lion King, which was released in May 1995. That was actually 3.5 years after the North American release of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which also had its own version of The Lion King. Now, if you're a Nintendo fan, odds are good you already knew a lot of these. What you may not know is there are also a ton of after-release games for the system. As recently as this year, games were still being produced. They include games like Jay and Silent Bob, Mall Brawl, Holy Driver, Micro Mages, and more.
As recently as this year, that's crazy.
There are at least 30 such games that you can download. On the other end of its development, when first released in North America in 1985, there were 17 games originally available. Among them were Pinball, Soccer, Tennis, and Wild Gunman. What's even more interesting is the delay. For 9 months, there weren't any other games available besides the original 17. That changed in June 1986.
Yo, side note. This ain't about the games. Another side note. My bad. Y'all know I got ADHD. Deal with it. If you ever see me drinking from this cup, that mean I'm in Batman mode, man. That mean it's super late.
when another 7 games were released, including classics like Donkey Kong and Balloon Fight. More regular releases followed. The Nintendo was well ahead of its time and responsible for many of the original contributions to video games that are still used today. Need an example? Well, the D-pad. Prior to that, all controls were done with a joystick. In fact, Nintendo patented the control scheme, which other systems then had to redesign to avoid running afoul of Nintendo's trademark. Sometimes, Nintendo was too far ahead of its time. Like, way too far ahead. For example, in 1991, Nintendo tested a cartridge that would have allowed people to play the Minnesota State Lottery from the NES itself. Individuals who participated in the test would have been given a Nintendo and a modem that would have let them play the lottery. Unsurprisingly for the time, the plan generated a ton of opposition, and a month after it was originally announced, the plan crashed, burned, and disappeared. This wasn't Nintendo's last attempt to enter what we would now consider online gaming. In 1992, Keith Rupp and Nolan Bushnell, yes, Atari's Nolan Bushnell, developed a modem prototype that would have allowed players to play against each other. The system...
Oh, that's hard. That's hard. If you would have been able to play, think about that. If you would have been able to play NES online, I'm trying to think of some dope games to play online. You think Duck Hunt would have been fun online? Like, I think so. You know what I mean? Just having a leaderboard, that'd be pretty cool.
System would have worked for both the Nintendo and Sega, but the project ultimately never went past the prototype phase. This would ultimately serve as a predecessor for the more successful Satellaview, released in 1995 for the Super Famicom. Speaking of ahead of its time, Nintendo beat the cell phone market by years, and in 1998 released the Game Boy Camera. This add-on to the Game Boy could take pixel pictures that could then be folded into games or printed using a specific Game Boy printer.
Let me know if you had a Game Boy camera. I never had one. I thought they were interesting. I thought the printer was cool.
The system sold well, and in 2000 it was modified so that it could take color pictures. Nintendo is also the first video game system to design a controller explicitly for accessibility. In winter 1987, Nintendo was advertising its adaptive controller, designed to let people play who had limited use of their arms and hands.
That's dope.
The controller could be used with breathing and a combination of neck and chin movements, which, considering it was 1987, is actually pretty cool. Some peripherals were designed to get kids to play. Others were designed to stop them from doing so. Ever heard of the Homework First?
They would never, ever put something for kids to stop playing games now. Wait, is that? No, I'm wrong about that. Because I think on the Switch, in the parent mode, you can actually set a time limit, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
This hilarious system was a combination lock that stopped players from putting games into the Nintendo.
You know what that made me think about? Hey, yo, if you from the hood, you know what it's like to have to put a lock on your steering wheel so nobody steals your car? That's what it's like. That look like so nobody steals your NES.
And in theory, only parents had the combination. Reports said that the system sold 25,000 units. By the way, speaking of homework, have you seen some of Nintendo's educational games? In 1993, as part of an effort to compete with Where in the World is...
Oh, I used to have Mario Type as a kid. That mode was super dope. I don't know how good it got me at typing, but it was fun.
Carmen Sandiego, Nintendo released Mario is Missing, arguably its best-known attempt to break into the educational game sphere. In the game, Bowser and his minions steal historical treasures and kidnap Mario. You play as Luigi and have to answer historical clues to relocate the treasures and rescue your big brother. The game was released for both the Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Do you remember the movie that was basically a massive commercial for Nintendo? In 1989, Universal Studios...
Yes, the mug was hard, and it had the Power Glove.
...released The Wizard, a kid-oriented film about a deeply traumatized young boy who travels across the country to enter the Nintendo World Championship Series. When not extensively advertising Nintendo video games or featuring kids in deeply dangerous situations, The Wizard was known for its incredible screenwriting, including this absolute gem.
There we go.
I love the Power Glove. It's so
Yeah. You know the Power Glove?
If you know, you know.
Let's spend a few minutes talking about the man himself, Mario. And let's start with one of his most defining features, the mustache. Mario's first NES appearance was in Donkey Kong, and the character itself was a small combination of pixels. Mario was actually given a mustache so that programmers would avoid having to design a mouth, which could be complicated. When Mario first appeared in Donkey Kong, he was actually referred to as Jumpman. As originally envisioned by
Jumpman. That boy up to something. I wonder if that's where Drake and Future got that from. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario was going to be a regular in a variety of games slotted in as needed. That's why he was originally referred to as Mr. Video, a name that never stuck. It wasn't until Mario first appeared in Mario Brothers that he had his own starring role. It wasn't until 1994 that Mario first had a voice. It seems like "It's me, Mario" has been around forever, but the truth is that Mario had no speaking lines until 94 when Mario Teaches Typing premiered. Mario was voiced by Charles Martinet until 2023 when it was
Mario Teaches Typing. That's what I was talking about.
announced that Martinet would be retiring from the role and replaced by actor Kevin Afghani. Mario, of course, has lived a very varied life. How varied? Well, according to a Reddit post, he has had at least 120 jobs over the span of his life. He's obviously a plumber, but Mario has also served as a skier, referee, janitor, spaceship captain, and more. Mario wouldn't get by in his career without the help of a ton of power-ups. Many? Well, as of 2024, about 88. The first power-up, of course, was the mushroom
Yo, this is a really good video, man.
and the fire flower.
Make sure y'all go check out Almost Something.
But went a little wild from there. For example, I have absolutely never heard of the Dragon Crystal. That one is from the Virtual Boy, which is a video topic in and of itself. Maybe those power-ups are also helping Mario's romantic life. Of course, Mario's current love interest is Princess Peach, but his ex-girlfriend is Pauline, who is featured in the Donkey Kong games, as well as mayor of New Dunk City in Super Mario Odyssey.
I just put that together that that's his ex. My bad, y'all. I never thought about that. That's crazy.
Mario's brother, Luigi, originally had no physical differences.
Tell me in the comments, is that like super obvious? Like, is that something like duh, everybody knows that. I did not I did not put two and two together.
To his older brother, other than color. In fact, as he was originally designed, Luigi was just a palette swap of Mario. In other words, the two were identical, save for a change in color. So why was he made green? Well, it saved on limited memory space, since the game was already programmed with the appropriate green for Koopas. That was the case with all of Luigi's original appearances, including Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers.
My 3-year-old son, he says that he's Mario and I'm Luigi.
It wasn't until Super Mario Bros. 2 that Luigi appeared as taller and thinner than Mario. Mario and Luigi are both brothers from the same parents, but interestingly enough, almost nothing is known about their parents from a canon perspective. It is only at the end of Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island that their parents even make the vaguest appearance, but that appearance is extremely brief. You never see.
Is the movie considered canon? Is it, we get a glimpse of them in the movie. Is that considered canon?
Their faces or hear their names. Speaking of faithful companions, there's Yoshi, the dinosaur that Mario sometimes rides. Miyamoto always wanted to include something like Yoshi in the Mario games, but he never had the memory to do so. Yoshi can actually trace his roots back to 1984, and a game called Devil World, in which a green dragon named Tamagon appears. Tamagon, like Yoshi, could hatch eggs and eat enemies. Now, weirdly enough, Yoshi isn't limited to Mario or Yoshi games. He actually makes 2 cameo appearances in 2 completely unrelated games. Yoshi appears as a doll on the desk in Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. He also appears as
What? That's crazy.
a collectible doll and in a framed photo in Link's Awakening and the Ocarina of Time. Now, Mario may be the best known Nintendo character, but there are obviously countless others. Interestingly enough, many of them don't have names. For example, the hunting dog in Duck Hunt and the biker in Excite Bike are both never given a name. The hunting dog, who everyone wanted to kill, was intentionally made unkillable to keep the game family-friendly. Excite Bike first premiered in Japan in 1984, a year before 1985 Super Mario Bros. However, the innovations that Excite Bike created paved the way for Super Mario. The game was one of the first to smoothly scroll across a level. That paved the way for Super Mario Bros. Level scrolling system. By the time it went out of production, a whopping 78 Nintendo games had sold more than 1 million units. Nintendo, a company famously obsessed with quality in their games, developed 31 of those hits. No other company was even close, but Capcom was the closest. The company developed 7 1 million plus selling games, including Ghosts and Goblins, Mega Man 2, and Mega Man 3. So, it's probably no surprise to learn that Nintendo developed and published the top 10 best-selling games for the system, including Super Mario Bros., Zelda, and Dr. Mario. The game that sold the best that wasn't produced by Nintendo? That would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which sold 4 million copies on its way.
I just recently got the Turtles Cowabunga collection. Now, the thing about when I got this, right, is I got it on eBay. I do a lot of shopping on eBay. You know what I'm saying? And when I opened it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I got scammed. And I opened it, it was no cartridge in the case. And then I went back to the listing and saw that I bought the box only. I was like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. But it was like $20. And it's a nice box, you know what I mean? That's just part of it, you know. But it's a nice box. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it. It'll probably cost me more to ship it back than anything. It did list on the listing that it was a box, so that was my fault for not reading. I went to Walmart, but ordered the game and actually got the game. And I ordered online, and they said they didn't have it. I went to the store. I was like, man, let me just check myself because they be super lazy at my Walmart. Sure enough, it was there.
To becoming the 11th best-selling game in the system's history. Nintendo games are great, but did you know that there are a few games that are major collector's items? And I mean major collector's items. How major? Well, in September 2021, a sealed copy of the original Super Mario Bros. Sold to an anonymous bidder for $2 million. Dude could have just downloaded it off of the Nintendo store. Among the many innovations that Nintendo was responsible
Would you pay $2 million for a sealed Mario?
for was also the use of multiple endings in a game. One of the first games to do so was Metroid. Metroid actually had 5 different endings that could be accessed depending on the type of suit used by the player and how fast the player finished the game. In endings 3, 4, and 5, Samus would remove at least her mask and appear as a woman. In ending 5, she appeared in a bikini for some reason. So much for Samus helping the cause of women in video games. Let's talk about Metroid for a second, because the game was incredibly impactful in a variety of ways. Released in North America in 1987, Metroid was the first major game to feature a female protagonist, something players only discovered at the end of...
I just thought about something. You think Samus gets hot in that suit? Like, because when he showed her in the bikini, I thought, you know, that's probably is close to something she wears under there. You know what I mean? Like, that thing is probably hot unless it's air conditioned. It might be air conditioned though. You know, that is a very nice suit. As much as I've tried to get into this NES version of this game, I cannot do it. I love Super Metroid. I mean, I love Metroid and stuff. I cannot get with this NES. I try. And then it just looks so crazy. It just looks like she just run around with a big old head.
Metroid is also the best-selling Nintendo game to feature a woman in the lead role, having sold more than 2.7 million units during its run. Now, incidentally, the game had to use straight-up lies in order to keep the surprise. The English instruction manual refers to Samus as a he. The game was among the first to offer permanent upgrades for players, including weapons and armor. Other games had power-ups, but Metroid was among the first to give players abilities that they would keep with them throughout the rest of the game, even if they died. Metroid also used a password system to allow you to save your progress, a system that would be removed in later years as Nintendo perfected their internal battery that allowed for games to be saved. That internal battery system was first pioneered with The Legend of Zelda. Many of Nintendo's most legendary characters first appeared on the NES. However, some of them aren't who you might think they are. For example, take the original Donkey Kong. The gorilla in jail? That's not actually Donkey Kong. Nintendo canon would later establish that it's Cranky Kong who is acting as the main bad guy. There was actually a lot of confusion about the exact relation between Cranky Kong, Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Jr., and it took the Super Mario Bros. Movie to clarify things. An official movie description describes Cranky Kong as Donkey Kong's father, which would then make Cranky Kong the grandfather of Donkey Kong Jr. By the way, and we discussed this in another video, Donkey Kong wasn't supposed to exist at all. As originally developed, the Donkey Kong arcade game was supposed to feature Popeye, Bluto, and Olive Oil. However, Nintendo couldn't
Yeah, I think I heard that before.
get the license for this classic cartoon property in time. As a result, they had to invent their own characters. That went pretty well for them.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yo, he did his due diligence making this video, man.
And one more interesting first for Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong 1981 is the first time that a character ever jumped in a platformer. Did Donkey Kong also invent gravity? Who knows? One of the things modern gamers take for granted is the fact that you can get through any game simply by watching a YouTube video or Googling a walkthrough. You probably remember checking out GameFAQs walkthroughs and frantically toggling between your game and your computer monitor. However, before such a thing was possible, there was the Nintendo Power Line. Launched by Nintendo in 1987, players could call this...
Yeah, I do know about that. Yo, this is funny because I was actually going to put this in the poll. If you subscribe, you can see the polls that I have. Do you think it's cheating to use a guide? Yes or no? I'm asking for a friend.
1-900 number to get hints on how to beat a game. There is a pretty stringent training...
Ooh, 1-900? Oh, that was expensive. That ain't 1-800. That 1-900.
If you know, you know.
...period and a green binder filled with notes for counselors on the other end of the line. Strangely enough, people began to call the hotline just to chat or get advice. The hotline shut down.
I ain't calling no 1-900 number just to chat. How much? Hold up. Let me see some. How much did it cost to dial 1-900 numbers? Heck no. It says $2 for the first minute and 45 cents every extra minute. You think I'm calling to chit chat? Yo, if I'm calling to get tips, hurry up. Get to the point. Get to the point. What can you tell me in under a minute and a half?
2005.
Yo. Man, that reminded me. Man, I remember back when my dad, rest in peace, we used to be with Sprint back in the day, and you could get your first minute. Remember paying for minutes on your phone? So you could get your first minute for free, okay, on Sprint. So we would talk. We would hear like a beep or something. We would hang up, dial back, hang up, dial back. We would do that every 1 minute just to keep it at a minute. Oh, my gosh. I miss the 90s, and I miss my dad.
Nintendo also produced their own magazine known as Nintendo Power. The magazine ran from 1988 to 2012 and produced hundreds of issues. It also contained exclusive looks at games, comics, hints, letters from readers, and more. It also had a list of high scores that players could submit from various games, including Tetris. Among those who was a regular on that list, Steve Wozniak. Yeah, that's
Oh, wow.
Steve Wozniak. In fact, Wozniak was on the list so much that Nintendo stopped printing his name. So Wozniak began to spell his name backwards to stay on the list.
That's funny.
As noted before, Nintendo is fiercely protective of the quality of their games and systems.
Hey, yo, they some haters for not putting his name up there, man. That's some hater stuff. Are they jealous because they can't get a high score in their own game?
Indeed, they learned lessons from the great video game crash of 1983, which occurred, in part, due to a proliferation of genuinely horrendous games that failed to meet customer standards. As a result, in 1985, the company implemented a strict 5-games-a-year license, which prohibited companies from making more than 5 games for the system in a single year. However, some companies found a way around this limit. For example, Konami created a spin-off company known as Ultra Games, and they would not be the last developer to use this tactic. So, speaking of things you probably wish you didn't know, but now will, Nintendo owns the rights to 2 pornography movies. Ugh, God. Yeah, no, seriously. The films' names are, Super Hornio Brothers and Super...
I'm gonna skip past.
All right,
that
let's just move on. Nintendo published many games that were available on other systems. However, in addition to their quality controls, Nintendo had a few strict production codes. Among them, no religion, no alcohol, and more. This meant the removal of a variety of religious references, even for relatively innocuous games. For example, crosses were removed from DuckTales, and the word devil was removed from a mini-boss in Mega Man. There's a bit of an irony to Nintendo's strict moral standards, considering how the company was first founded. Nintendo is actually really old, having been founded in 1889. Originally, it made Hanafuda cards, which are cards that had nature-themed pictures and could be used for gaming or gambling.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They used to be used for gambling.
Actually, these cards were banned in Japan due to increases in crime that were found as a result of their use in casinos. Interestingly enough, gambling was not banned by Nintendo's content guidelines, so at least they weren't being hypocritical. Now, sports games were among the more popular Nintendo genre of games. and some games were notably better than others. Take the original RBI baseball game. This game was the first ever to be licensed by the Major League Baseball Players Association, meaning that the game could use players' names and stats. This helped the game sell more than 2 million units and become the second most popular sports game sold on the NES. Believe it or not, the original Golf is the most successful sports game sold on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Golf sold more than 4 million units. In the game, you get to golf as Mario and play 18 holes. A power and accuracy meter is used in the game, and players can select from one of many clubs. Wii Sports actually pays tribute to the original Golf by basically lifting the first 9 holes from the original game. Another wildly successful Nintendo game was Duck Hunt, which famously used the Zapper gun. Of course, if you were like me, you jammed that gun right up to the TV, but that's completely besides the point. What is more interesting is the way the gun changed. The original gun? Yeah, it looked like this, which is frighteningly close to a real gun.
Oh my gosh.
The North American version was redesigned to look more like this, with its intent.
I think I reacted to a video of somebody taking that blicky into like a store and trying to rob them. But I think it was actually this gray one.
To make it look like a ray gun. In 1988, Congress passed the Federal Toy Gun Law, which required toy guns to be much more distinct from real ones in a variety of ways, including color. The 1989 version of the Zapper gun was thus changed to bright orange. This is one of many regional differences between Nintendo games, which often varied wildly depending on where they were released. This includes Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. This game was originally released to Japan as Super Mario Bros. 2. However, American staff for Nintendo found the game to be too close to the original and far, far too difficult and unforgiving. As a result, there was a frantic scramble to redesign the game, leading to the reskinning of Doki Doki Panic as Super Mario Bros. 2. Super Mario Bros. 2 is not the only game that had alternative starting points. For example, take Kirby. Kirby, of course, is this pink, happy, gooey thing. However, its original name? Tinkle Popo. Yeah, not quite as catchy. And let's finish up with this. The NES was manufactured...
Nah, Kirby. Nah.
Get up!
Nah, Kirby. We ain't just gonna let you slide and not touch on that name. We gotta flame you for a bit. Man, if you don't get your old Tinkle Popo self, I ain't even gotta say no disses, man. Your name is a diss. Tinkle Popo? Oh my gosh.
Manufactured from 1983 to 2003 as part of what is commonly referred to.
Let me tell you all a fact about Kirby's name. I'm gonna throw in my own Nintendo fact. So Kirby is actually the name of the lawyer who, when Nintendo was sued by, I believe, Paramount for using for Donkey Kong, because they were saying that it infringed on King Kong, and Nintendo won the lawsuit. Their lawyer was named Kirby, and they said that they were going to name one of their characters after him. So that's where we get the name Kirby from. So, 51 Nintendo facts you didn't know.
As the third generation of consoles, with the Famicom only ceasing production in 2003. That makes the Nintendo Entertainment System the second longest system ever produced. Believe it or not, the Sega Master System, the one that predates the Genesis, holds that record, with production starting in 1986 and still ongoing today, albeit only in Brazil. However, from the perspective of Japan, it's the Nintendo that holds the record as the longest-lasting video game system ever. And what a fitting tribute to an amazing system that reshaped so much of our lives. And if you liked what you saw...
Yo, that video was super good. I ain't gonna hold you. That was probably one of my favorite videos that I've reacted to so far. Shout outs to Almost Something. Go make sure that you like and subscribe to his channel. He did a really, really thorough job. So shout outs to him. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and share the video. I'm on my journey to my first 1,000 subs. If you subscribe and you go into the post, you can see how to win a Trim UI brick that I'll be giving away when I hit 1,000 subs. I appreciate you guys. God bless and salutations to the nations. Peace.
Angel Knot.